Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Ancient Irish Tales. Today, where we look at the tragic death in the Ulster cycle of Curie MacDiry. Enjoy the tale, and do hit that subscribe button. All right, the tragic death of Curie MacDiry. This is in the Ulster cycle again. The tragic death of Curie MacDiry is one of the group of sagas which belong to the oldest parts of the Ulster cycle, and which center around Curie MacDiry, a half-demonic personage with magic powers who, according to tradition, resided in the south of Ireland. He is associated especially with Kerry, where the remains of a prehistoric fortifications in the Shilmish Mountains are still known as Castle Corrie, Corrie's city. It is not surprising that the composers of the Ulster cycles should conceive the ideas of representing their beloved hero. Cuchulainn, as a victorious over this great southern champion, Cuchulainn being only a beardless youth, usually wins by strigan rather than open warfare, by strategy rather than open warfare. The story in the tragic death of Curie MacDiry must have been widespread. There are numerous versions of it in early Irish, and its fame even spread across the Channel to Wales. Now, why did the men of Ulster slay Curie MacDiry? Well, that's easy to say, because Barad, who was carried off from the siege of Fearfirgi, because of the 3 cows of Incra and, well, the 3 men of Ocean, that is, the little birds that used to be on the ears of the Eastern cows. And a cauldron was carried off with the cows. This cauldron was their calf. 30 cows milking was the capacity of the cauldron, and the full of it was milked from them every time while the birds were singing to them. Hence, said Cuchulainn in the Sirsaphat, there was a cauldron in the fort, the calf of the 3 cows, 30 cows within its gullet. That was its portion. They used to go into the cauldron, and delightful was the struggle, nor did they come away from it again until they left it full. There was much gold and silver in it. It was a goodly find, and I carried off that cauldron with its daughter of the king. Curie MacDiry went with his men of Ulster, and then to the siege, and they did not recognize him. That is, they called him the man in the grey mantle. Every time a head was brought out of the fort, who slew that man? Concobar would say, I and the man in the grey mantle. Each answered in turn. When, however, they were dividing the spoil, they did not give Curie a share, for justice was not granted him. He then ran among the cows and gathered them before him, collected the birds in his griddle, thrust the women under one armpits, and went from them with the cauldron on his back. And none among the men of Ulster was able to get speech with him save Cuchulainn alone. Curie turned upon the ladder, thrust into the earth of his armpits, cropped his hair with his sword, rubbed cow his dung into his head, and then went home. After that, Cuchulainn was a whole year avoiding the Ulstermen. One day, however, when he was on the peaks of Brush, he saw a great flock of black birds coming towards him over the sea. He killed one of them forthwith. After that, he killed one of the flock in every land he passed through until he came to Sirabrin, Raven's Beak, in the west of Ireland. That is the blackbird's head which he cut off. Sirabrin is named therefrom. This took place west of Churi's stronghold. And then Cuchulainn knew that it was he who brought him to shame, and he held it convinced that a woman of Baphomet, for he had loved her even before she was brought oversea. She was the daughter of Insha, king of the Ferfrigi, man of Felga. That is, they were seawall. In the islands of the sea, he made the tryst with her again in the west on the night of Simonius. Moreover, the province of Ithrin set forth to go with Cuchulainn. That was on that day Belarus devised Curi that he should blend splendid enclosure for his stronghold of every pillar stone standing or lying in Ireland. The clan Dairi set out one day for the building of the stronghold, so that he was all alone in his fortress on that day. There's an agreement between Balthard and Cuchulainn, namely to pour the milk of Inch's cows down the river in the direction of the Ulstermen, so that the river might be white when she was bathing Churu. So it was done. It was poured down to them, and the river then became Fingis, white feckled. She then began losing his head in the front of the stronghold. Come into the stronghold, she said, and get washed before the hosts come back with their burdens of stones. Just then he lifted up his head, and he saw the host of Ulster coming towards him along the glen, both foot and horse. Who are those yonder men and women? Said Curi. Thy people, said Balthad, with the stones and the oak for building the stronghold. If they are oaks, 'tis swiftly they travel. It is a triumph if they are stones, said Curi. He raised his hand again and continued to scan them. Who are these? Said he. Herds of kin and cattle, she said. If they are cattle, so that they are cattle, they are not herds of lean kin. There is a little man brandishing a sword on the back of every cow. Whereupon Curi went inside, and the women bathed him, and she bound his hair to the bedpost and rails, and took his sword out of the scabbard, and threw open the stronghold. He heard not, however, until the Ulstermen had filled the house and fell upon him. He rose up straightway against them, and slew 100 of them with kicks and blows of his fists. An attendant who was within rose up against them, and slew 30 of them. Thereof it was sung, through the attendant of the prince, he was skilled at the battle game. He slew 30 armored men, then he let himself be slain. Sinful. Hi. This is one of the little puppies that I have. This one's name is Lucius. Hi, Lucius. Sinful came in the cry, whereof it was said, Sinful came first. He slew 100 men of the host. Though great he was a might in his combat, he got his death through Cuchulainn. Then Concha came upon them. Concha came upon them. He slew 100 men, a mighty encounter. He would have grappled with Concha if the monster abound in sea had not drowned him. That is to say, when he was contending with Concha, he saw the stronghold in flames to the north of the sea. So he went into the sea to save it. His swim was great, and, well, he was drowned there. The fight of Elsha, son of Dairi, from the promontory to the glen. He slew 100 men with his great achievement, and it was avenged his good king. Then it was Clan Dairi cast from them every pillar stone, which was standing or while lying in Ireland, and when they heard the shouting, and came up to the slaughter around the fortress, whereof it was said, after that came the Clan Dread, seeking their king, 5,300, 102,000. Where whomever they slay one another in the fortress, and Cuchulainn had cut off Curi's head, the fortress was aflame. Ferchin, Curry's poet, was by his house in the glen, and he said, "Who is this youth that fights? By the side of Curry's fortress, if Dairi's son were alive, it would not burn." Fairpreach, however, Curry's charioteer, had made a submission to the Colbert, son of Concobar, and he went into the chariot with him. He drove the horses against the rock, and while the rock crushed both the horse and men. Whereof it was said, "Fabrice, perchance it is no lie, thou sayest he bore Concobar's son of Concobar under the bitter sea waves." Then Faucher came. "Art thou not Fauchin?" said Concobar. "I am indeed." "Was Tori kind to thee?" said Concobar. "Well, he was indeed," he said. "Tell us somewhat of his bounty." "I cannot now," he said. "My heart is sad after slaying of my king. For mine own hand shall slay me, if no one else slay me." Then Fertred, the poet, said, "It was a kingly gift," said Concobar. "It was little from him." "Where is Bartnet?" he said. "She is here," said the youth. "But it's only by striking off Curry's head that we obtained her deliverance. It was after that she was crushed against the rock, and that is promontory of Canberra. For the men of Fontaine made a rush towards her and caught her between his arms, so that her ribs broke on her back. And he hurled her down the cliff before him, so that the rock crushed them both. And their grave is on the strand under the rock. Hence it was sung, "Sad was the struggle together of Aldeth and Ferchin, and the graves of them both are in the powerful land of Canberra." Nevertheless, the slaughter encased on them every day from Simonius to the mid-spring, the Ulstermen made account of their forces going and coming, and a third of their heroes they left behind, as was said. Balthus was slain in the slaughter above Gargandon, a grievous deed for a woman to betray her husband. Now that is the tragic death of Churoi McDerry.